Welcome and congratulations. You found the Satori Show with host Amy Satori, your spirit guide to the unseen world. Amy's ability to communicate with and interpret for spirits in that world is simply amazing. Her mission is to use this gift to help people understand what's happening in their life so they can take positive action to move forward. So let's tap into this unseen world together and discover what our friends and loved ones on the other side have to say about our health, love, relationships, our pets, our destiny, and so much more. I hope you'll join me, Kevin McDonald, as we delve into our lives and the world we live in right now on The Satori Show.
And welcome to the show, everybody. This is The Satori Show, and this is a podcast that Amy Satori and I am doing to help people grow and enlighten people, some of which we're going to talk about today. But mostly, I want to welcome your host, Amy Satori. Good morning, Amy. Welcome from Boulder, Colorado.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Beautiful place there, Boulder, Colorado, isn't it?
And it's a gorgeous day. Absolutely beautiful blue skies, sunshine.
Is there still snow on the ground?
Little traces of it here and there, but it's pretty gone. You know, one thing that I like about here versus like Bozeman, Montana, which I've also lived is that Bozeman, you'd just be surrounded by feet of snow for months, and it wouldn't burn off. And it would get kind of gray and dark sometimes and things like that. But like here, it's always bright and sunny, and it always burns right off. So.
Oh, that's cool. And Colorado being where you are, it's kind of like on one day it can be 75 and sunny, the next day it can be 32 and snowing like crazy.
Yes. Yes. Just the other day it was like almost 70 and it went down to 1 the next day. I was are you kidding me? Like, how is that even possible?
How do you make fashion choices?
You dress in layers, and there's no fashion involved. It's just layers.
And survival at 1 degree.
Yes. And heaters.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to have heaters everywhere you go.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now we're going to talk about a very interesting topic today, and it's something that at one point in time I suspect everybody has either been or has been doing it, and that's bullying. And both of the folks on the line today, we have Travis with us because he's got a very interesting story to share about his growing up in formative years, about the bullying that he went through, and also, even though it's hard for me to believe, Amy has promised to tell us a story about how she was bullied when she was a kid. So, Amy, would you like to begin this conversation?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll share the story first, and then and maybe Travis can share, and then maybe I'll just share what I've come to know about bullies, or I guess we can mix it up. Yeah. So what happened for me was it's really funny because I started out really young, feeling really protective of everybody else. And I would look around the playground and kind of look for anybody who was being a bully, and I would go tell the bully to back off, that kind of thing. So I was always really protective of people, but then I got bullied. And I was like, okay, well, this is no fun being on this end of it. And then I dreaded going to school, and I was, pretty scared. But then I got in that kind of just, I don't know how that went away. He must have been talked to or something like that. But in my later years, like in junior high school, there was this girl, and for some reason she was just really jealous of my relationship with my dad. My dad was a teacher at the junior high school, and she just thought I was like spoiled and had like this incredible life or something, and she didn't. And so she would harass the heck out of me. She followed me everywhere and would be hollering out to me, saying stuff to me, and she would back then, like, I was called things like anorexic and stuff because I was a skinny little stick, and I stayed that way into my early 20s. And she would like knock, if I went to the bathroom, she'd like knock my door open. And if I was walking along, she'd sneak up behind me and throw my books all over the place and laugh and run. And she even befriended my dad and became like one of his favorite students. And one day I walked in and she had her arms wrapped around him and she just had this crazy smile on her face. When I walked in, like, oh, she's like, this is my best friend, you know. And my dad was like, oh, you know, meet so-and-so. She's like my best student. And I was going, oh my gosh, you know. And when I got home, I was like, Dad, that's the girl that's been beating me up and, you know, bullying me and harassing me and all this stuff. And he didn't believe it. He was just like, there's no way, you know. So that's when I learned that people can be really manipulative. I thought it was pretty crazy. But so yeah, and even like a year ago, I got bullied. I was working at Home Depot, and this guy, for some odd reason, just I think he liked me on some level and just couldn't say that, and instead making fun of me was like, you know, when you're in class and somebody pulls on your pigtails and does that sort of thing. Because he was just always around me and always making fun of me and always laughing and always doing all this stuff to me. And I'm like, can't you find something better to do than just hang around me and make fun of me all the time? And it was really hard getting rid of him or trying to shake him off. And it was a really difficult situation. One time we caused a scene. We got in a fight right in the middle of Home Depot. And I called him an a-hole. Like, I had like stopped off.
That's very spiritual of you, by the way.
I know, and I went to Human Resources, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. They said he does this to like all kinds of people. But here's the crazy thing that happened after that. This is like, I was what? So I left Home Depot, and I was at a club dancing. I really enjoy dancing, so I was just at this club in Boulder dancing. And this guy was, for some reason, just kind of like plastered on me. I mean, he was just like all over me all night and was following me around club to club, and he just wouldn't stop, you know, trying to touch me and just really, you know, getting up on me. And so I went to one club, and this guy was there, the one that bullied me, and he was kind of watching the situation going on. And he actually totally saved me. He saved the situation. He came in and he put his arm around that guy and kind of distracted him. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? You know, what do you think you're doing? And he starts like kind of doing his bully thing to this guy, and then let me slip out from under his arm and like take off in the crowd. And I got away from the guy. So I was like, thank you, God. Like, thank you for getting that guy away from me. And it was just ironic that it happened to be the guy that had bullied me before actually kind of saved the day this time. So I thought, wow, that was sweet justice. Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah. So when there is, I don't think in my life that I've seen, I think female on female teenage bullying is the absolute worst. Because can see, because they really, women have a way of being devious, especially when they're teenagers, and they can really be mean, really mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I got made fun of in the locker room for being anorexic. I mean, they really thought that I was anorexic, and I wasn't. I was just skinny. I mean, I could totally eat anything, and I could not gain a pound. So I was made fun of. You know, yeah. What's crazy though? Yeah, well, I don't have that problem now. But so this girl, this is kind of a cool story too, because I do tend to have these bully turnaround stories. One of the girls that made fun of me for being anorexic in the locker room, a different girl, she actually ended up being friends with me on Facebook. And ended up like being a really, really cool girl. And she and I became friends all over again. She was like liking and commenting more on my posts than anybody had in a long time. And she was just totally rekindled or actually she kindled something that was never really all that there. So it was really neat to have that happen with her, and so that kind of got fixed. It kind of got remedied, and we healed from it and forgave each other, or I forgave her, I guess. And so that I actually really like her now and would totally hang out with her. But yeah, so that kind of got healed.
Well, and we have somebody else on the line who has been bullied to a great degree, and I'd like to tell a little bit of the backstory of the genesis of that. When I was 30 and my wife was 25, we decided we were going to have a child. And so we proceeded to embark upon that adventure, and she subsequently became pregnant. And the day that the child was born, which was June 12th, 1988, so that would make this child almost 30 years old now. And when he was born, he came out of the womb and just the natural delivery, but he had like what looked to me to be like a bloody nose. And the doctors looked at it and they said, well, we're not sure, but it may be a port wine stain, and it goes from the middle of his forehead and encompasses his entire nose. But they said, at the time, well, but these things happen in childhood, and it's probably liable to go away pretty quickly. And so we rested in that and hoped that it would, and it hasn't. And my son Travis has grown up with a issue that is plain as the nose on his face. Travis, good morning.
Good morning.
Would you please tell our audience what it's like to wake up every day, to go to school every day, to walk around every day with a port wine stain on your nose? And first of all, how rare that is. And secondly, how did you deal with the bullying that came along with it throughout your entire life?
We'll start with the rarity of it. The percentage of people that are born with port wine stain birthmarks, period, is very small. That number goes down when it is severely when it's on your face and to a specific part of your face. So most people with the port wine stain birthmark have like a little, they call it kind of a stork bite. It almost looks like a mole, a little red mole, or it can encompass the entire, side of the face or even the whole face. What makes me a little unique is that it is right down the center and makes my nose really red, especially when I get a lot of sun in the summer. Now, there is a character that also has a red nose that growing up, all of the children were well aware of, especially during Christmas time. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I hate this character. Very early on, kids made this connection. Well, some people thought it was cute, and mostly girls would think that it was cute, but I did not believe them. And the reason I did not believe them is because I've got a particularly unique experience with that dang song. Not a lot of people have gotten their ass kicked to that particular melody. Now, going through elementary school, I did not have a bully. I did not have a couple bullies. I had a whole bunch of bullies that I would get teamed up upon. They would corner me in the corner of the playground where nobody could see and get held down, kicked, punched, whilst hearing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And that went on for all the way through elementary school. And it's kind of weird because the kids that picked Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and were bullying me the entire time bothered me less than the friends that I made that eventually turned on me because their friends said to them, "Why are you friends with that red-nosed freak?" So, several instances, several occasions, I had a friend that was a grade older than me, and I hung out at his house. I met his family, and all of that, and we became really good friends. And his friends in his grade found out that he was friends with me. Now, everybody at the school knew who I was. So they were giving him crap and starting to bully him a little bit about, why are you friends with that red-nosed freak? So one day I heard that he was going to fight me. So naturally I hid. And he eventually found me, and we got into it, and his friends teamed up, and I lost the fight. It all turned around when I was 10 or 11, sixth grade, when I finally had enough, and I rang a kid's bell a little bit. But not a little bit. His eyes crossed and loose knot bubbles. It was hilarious. But things started to slow down once I started to develop a sense of humor about it. I could make fun of myself way better than anybody could make fun of me, and that just diffused a lot of situations. And as I got into junior high, first of all, I hit a growth spurt, which helped, because I was about a head taller than everybody. And and I was on the football team, played baseball, I was athletic and stuff, and nobody really wanted to. Got in a couple of fights, but I started to be more of a defender of people that were getting bullied. And it's a theme that, I mean, there was a couple instances that I made friends with this kid who was very, very heavy. He was very nice, but he was very heavy. And he had a couple of bullies that I ended up having to beat off of him a couple of times. And we became really good friends. But, and then into high school, and everything started to kind of peter off a little bit, as far as getting directly bullied and stuff. But that, even to this day, it's kind of tough to walk into go get lunch or something and have somebody look at me and goes, "Oh my goodness, what happened to your face?" It's like, "Oh, well, it's a birthmark." "Oh, what do you have?" It's just not, people have no qualms about coming up to me and go, "What is wrong with you?" And having something just blatantly out there like that is difficult. And it was difficult, and it continues to be difficult. But all that being said, I really do feel sympathetic and empathetic to everybody around that. I know I'm not the only one, and I know I wasn't the only one in my schools growing up that was getting bullied, but there are, and from especially, and what am I trying to say here? I think that it's a big problem that's happening right now, especially in the youth, especially with social media and things of that nature. And it's become a lot less physical than it was, at least when I was growing up, I think. But having an outlet, even a faceless one on the internet, I can't even imagine what social media was around when that was happening to me.
Oh, it is just, I can't imagine growing up today with social media and with all of the things, the different ways and the creative ways that people can bully is just beyond the pale. But before we go there, I want to do this real quick. Amy Satori is our intuitive guide in all of these podcasts. And one of the things that I have always felt was that Travis came into this world with this birthmark, which is as plain as the nose on his face, for a reason. Amy, can you please tap into the other side and to tell me and to tell Travis about his higher self? And is that the case, or was it just a divine accident?
Well, I'm glad that you said that because we were on the same page. I was going to ask him, actually, why he chose to do this, because, yes, he did. He chose this experience, and I want him to tap into that himself and feel into that, because a being that chooses to come down to this earth and go through an experience like that, I mean, he's got to be a pretty big badass on the other side, if you think about it.
Well,
don't you think?
Amy, I have to tell you a quick story. When Travis was a kid, and we were having a discussion about this topic, about bullying, and about the fact that he was getting bullied, and that he was very distraught about it. And I made the comment. I said, Travis, you must be a very powerful person, because you came here knowing full well that this was going to be part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and he said, Dad, you're a complete idiot.
So let me ask you this, Travis. I want you to just think about, at all these experiences that you've had, and think about what has been the benefit or the advantage as to why you think you did this, or why, okay, say you have irritable bowel syndrome.
Yeah.
As much as that's not a very welcomed thing to have, it definitely has its advantages. If you don't want to go to a party with really stuffy people, you can always use it as an excuse.
Yeah.
If you ever find yourself uncomfortable in a situation, you can get yourself out of there pretty quick by just kind of whispering to whoever you're with, I've got IBS. And they're like, oh, and then you can disappear or whatever. So even you can even come up with comical reasons, as long as it gets the wheel turning and you start to realize and see just how supported you are in this. So just trying to look at it from a little bit of a different angle. I mean, it's pretty darn easy for you to come up with a victim story around it. But if you can take a look at this and see what do you think are the benefits? What have been the benefits to you? What have been the advantages this has given you?
I had to think about that.
You've thought about this before?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It gave me, first of all, it gave me courage very early on.
Mm.
It gave me the ability and the courage to stand up to people that were, doing me wrong, doing somebody else wrong. And
I would think it'd probably make you pretty discerning about people too. I would think that you're pretty good at reading people.
Yeah.
And that you would have had to have, enhanced your intuition, because I know for me, I was bullied so much that I'd, start to head around the corner and I would be thinking, is there danger around the corner? And that's how I developed my intuition back in high school. Is somebody really big about to come around the corner and nail me? Or is somebody going to just, show up in the bathroom and kick my door in or whatever, So how did that sort of thing play out for you?
I do think about that. Going around the corner, like you said, and just reading people, reading their body language, paying attention if they're looking at me. Because you can tell when somebody's locked onto you, or I can anyway. And it's given me the ability to look at them back as if to say, there is nothing you can do to me that hasn't been done already. So
it's made you pretty tough.
It's given me the ability to be.
Yeah. And what about discernment and intuition?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
What about discerning, reading people? Are there things, can you tell, like, the more insecure people from the others?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I can tell who's more timid, I can really spot alpha males from, like, a million miles away.
Ah.
I can see the guy who's trying to command the room, and I usually don't get along with him. And I'm looking for who's trouble, basically. And I can usually tell who's going to be trouble and who's not. Like if I'm in a party and there's a bunch of people that I don't know, and I can walk through the party, and I'm infinitely better at judging males than I am females, because that wasn't a huge part of my bullying, because they weren't overt about it. They were just kind of indifferent to me, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So I really didn't have a ton of contact with females as far as an intimate relationship goes. I did far more with males, so I'm much better at judging what a male's going to do than I am a female.
Welcome to the club, child. That's kind of a problem for all of us guys. We don't get it. We don't get them.
Well, I mean, it's not only that, but you can. Okay, maybe it's me and my intuition, and I seem to think that everybody has it, which is possible. But looking at body language, and I can kind of devise the intentions of somebody by the way they move, by the way they look, by the way their eyes are, by a whole lot of other criteria that I run through my head in an instant. And I can figure out what is this dude gonna end up doing throughout the evening, or what is he gonna do right now, or what is he about at this very moment. And I can do that really quick. I feel like it's more of a self-defense mechanism than it is anything else. I mean, I guess it is intuition, but I'm coming at it from a self-defense perspective.
Well, self-defense is, again, it's like just putting you in that role of victim. And yes, it could be. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but maybe it's the universe's way of shaping and molding you into who you're becoming. I mean, it's like if we listen to our intuition and we let life unfold the way that it's that we intuitively are pulled toward, we become, I believe, we start to step into our superpowers. So if you think of yourself as being shaped and molded into something that's going to be pretty phenomenal, think about how these skills that you've developed can come in handy. Because I have done that. I have taken every bad thing that's ever happened to me, and I've made it into my superpower. And that's where you need to think. That's where people, it really gives you a leg up or an advantage if you can take a look at everything that's happened to you that's been kind of a handicap and turn it into your power. Like, I could see you being some kind of spy. I mean, what if you had a tattoo on your face? What if you started, doing all this really heavy bodybuilding and you had tats all over your body, including your face? Nobody would question you, and they'd be more, scared of you, for example. Right. And then you'd be, walking into a building, and everybody would be like, ooh, look at this, person coming in, and you'd be like an excellent bodyguard, and you love protecting people, and you'd feel, and you get a lot of girls. You know, there could be some advantages to that if you were to embrace it, but we tend to like cower down to these insecurities. We tend to cower down to these vulnerabilities and things. And I mean, even my mom was handicapped. When I was about 2 or 3, she had a severe stroke and she became half paralyzed. She dragged her leg behind her. She could only say about 3 or 4 words. And so when I went out in public with her anywhere, it was I had to protect her. I had to stand up for her. I had to yell at people that were making fun of her. You know, that sort of thing. But that developed compassion in me. It developed strength. It developed, you know, a lot of character in me. So I'm really grateful that my mother went through that. You've also caused those types of things in your family, and what it's done to Kevin and maybe your mom. You know, all kinds of people have also had experiences and interactions with you that have helped them as a result of it. My mother was one of the most loving, incredible people I've ever known. So that was like her superpower. So she wasn't able to talk like normal people. She wasn't able to walk like normal people. But dang, her heart was like $1 million, you know, worth $1 million. She was, you know, an amazing, amazing person. So, and I don't think she'd have been like that if she wouldn't have had that stroke, I tell you. I mean, that stroke put her at a 5-year-old mentality and just made her a beautiful little 5-year-old girl that was just had a heart of gold. And that being raised me and helped me to be who I am right now in my power. So it's all in support of us, every bit of it, if we see it from that angle. So I would say to you, and especially this year with the Divine Masculine stepping into their power, this is your time to embrace it. This is your time to take a look at how this is actually working in your favor and why you designed this. And yes, you've probably also had the thought of this being some kind of a karmic thing, like maybe you were, there's a really great movie, Beauty, and that it's not Beauty and the Beast, but it's something along those lines, but it's with people, not a cartoon. And this guy was like super, super vain. You should see that movie if you haven't yet. It's really good. But, and I'll send it to you later. So it's like, this guy was so vain and so stuck up. And so he just put like everything on that and just was real pompous about it. So I could see if you were like that in a past life, yes, you would probably come back to be humiliated in this lifetime. But it's really, and that's all to develop character. So even that would be a good thing. It's not like you're being punished. It would be like to develop your character and to help you to see the opposites were put through these things in all these different lifetimes, to experience all these opposites, to essentially kind of land you somewhere in the middle in a neutral place of love. So either way you look at it, it's actually a good thing. You're not being punished, and you're not being, you're being molded and shaped, no matter how you look at it, into something that's going to be very powerful. Yeah.
Since you brought up the movie that I identify myself with mostly, have you seen the movie Roxanne with Steve Martin?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great
When
movie.
I stop to smell the flowers, they're afraid.
But
okay,
that
so
was...
I want to ask you this though too. All right, so let's see how vulnerable you'll be with me, or like how let's see. Let's go back a little bit to a few episodes ago when something you had. I did a reading for you. You were like, I think you were our first caller, and I gave you some information on that episode that blew your mind. And your dad was like, I don't know about this. But for you, it really affected you. And Kevin actually said that there was a transformation, not only in you, but he said that birthmark started to change.
Yeah.
Is that true?
It is true.
And tell me what that transformation was about, or what were the thoughts that led to that, and like what happened? What was your experience of that?
So I'll go back just a little bit further to explain. My birthmark, I had a normal looking nose, okay? And over these last 4 years, it started to have more, because the birthmark is just a vascular malformation. And it started to have more and more malformations, and it started to push out, and I've got this bulbous mass of blood vessels on the tip of my nose now, and it was large. And during your reading and my first call and over this last month, it's made me realize that, and the swelling has gone down substantially, and I was having a lot of problems with bleeding and all that kind of stuff, and that's gone away drastically.
Wow.
And the thoughts, because I was feeling pretty darn hopeless before our first reading. I had gone through a very messy breakup. She could basically figured out she could do whatever she wanted to me, and she took advantage of that. And my thoughts were, well, this is just what my life is. I try to build something, somebody tries to capitalize on it, and they just take whatever they want and go. And that's just the way it's going to be for me, and there's no helping it, is where I was at. And then you told me about twin flames, how I am one, and all hope is not lost. That I have the things that are going to be happening for me that have never happened to me before. And I started to think about it more. I started doing more research, more reading, and thinking about going through a lot of my past too. Things that would pop up in my head that I'm like, well, that was embarrassing, and I shouldn't have said that, and this person did this to me, and that person did that to me, and I just carried that with me. Thought that I was just an absolute pile of crap. This thing on my face is holding me back, and it's not going to be able to go away. I can't seem to find a doctor that knows how to deal with it. And getting myself into a better frame of mind, getting myself more in touch with my inner self, and just starting to go through everything, and I'm feeling better, I'm looking better, I'm actually losing weight, which is weird. And my nose is starting to go back to normal. I've got plan, I've got things I want to do, and I'm energetic about doing things now. And I'm really trying to get away from the woe is me mentality.
And it's actually transforming your nose.
It is, yeah. And I was never really sure once it started going, because it had happened to me once before, and I got into a better place mentally. I got into shape. I got into a stress-free zone, and it went back to normal. And I'm really not thinking that my nose doing what it's doing and shaping and misforming and bulging out and that kind of thing. I don't think that it's entirely medical.
Welcome to the world of energy. Yeah, and you just recently went to your counselor, and she told you don't need to come back anymore, right?
Right. Yeah, that was Friday.
That's awesome.
So I'm not nearly as depressed or anxious or anything.
Now, Amy, I would, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to interject here, because there's an aspect of my son, and okay, I'm going to be a proud papa for a moment, but there's an aspect to my son that he hasn't shared with you, and I think it's important because of the bullying that he was subjected to when he was a kid, and all the things that he had to go through, made him, number one, made him a man, made him very strong. So when he decided when he was 19 that he was going to go become a diesel mechanic, I was like, well, he's always liked cars, and that's kind of a good thing, and I think that he could probably do that. Well, not only did he prove that he could do that, he has an amazing ability, and I believe part of it is due to his growing up and becoming psychic in a way and using his intuition. He has now become what I would term a master mechanic for high-rise lifts and forklifts, to the point where the last employer before he left, the vice president of the company, came to visit him because he was known all the way to the top of that particular company because of what he could do that nobody else could do. He then goes to the company he's at now, and he is doing the same things. He is able to walk into a room and talk with the bluest of blue-collar guy who is running a company or is in the company, and then turn around and talk with the CEO and be able to do both of those things. He is able to, he's able to walk. Well, first of all, two stories. He walked into Boeing this company was about to lose its account, called Boeing. Now, I don't know if you know where Boeing is, but it's a pretty big company. And he saved that account for this company to the point of where they were going to put in another branch because they were getting too busy. Now, Travis isn't going to tell you that. The other thing is that he walked into a place with his new company that he wasn't even a customer because he got the address wrong. And he walked in and he got the account for the sales guy because he's not even a sales guy, but he has the ability to communicate at all levels with all people, and he's extremely good at what he does. And that is all part and parcel of who he is because of who he was and how he's grown up around it. Now, he's probably over there blushing a little bit, and I'm going to sing his praises because he's done stuff that I couldn't do, and his company, he was laughing. He was laughing at me the other day because the CEO or the branch manager of where he works is a very standoff guy. Doesn't talk to very many people, and if he does, he doesn't really remember anybody's name and stuff. Well, the other day, in front of a bunch of people, this branch manager walks up to Travis and said, "Travis, it's nice to see you." Shook his hand and said, "It's not very often I get to talk to somebody that nobody tells me bad things about." And then he walked away, and all these people were standing there looking at each other going, well, he doesn't talk to me that way. He doesn't talk to me that way. And am I incorrect in that, Travis, or is that an accurate reading?
No, you are correct, and I was actually going to bring that up, Dad.
Oh, good.
The job that he was talking about was a $1 billion job for Boeing. And they're putting in 3 new buildings, and one of which is the largest wing manufacturing facility that they've ever built. So our company had 125 125-foot booms. So over 100 booms that would bring somebody up 125 feet. These are dangerous pieces of equipment. They're going up in between beams and welding and all that stuff. And not only that, but on that job site is all iron workers. And if anybody has been around iron workers for any amount of time, that little filter that most people have between their brain and their mouth is missing. They don't have one of those. They say whatever pops into their head. And I know you guys aren't trying to swear on this podcast, so I'm not going to either, but hopefully I'm getting my point across, that they will look at somebody and they will tear into them.
Podcast. It's okay.
They will tear into them. You do something wrong. You're a freaking idiot. You're dumb, and all this stuff. And that's typically pretty scary when you're around 1,000 dudes like that. And I got to go in the middle of them. I got to go up to the people and say, get off that now. You broke it. It's dangerous now. And I got to tell people what to do. I got to deal with the head honchos of this job. And this company that we were working with, they're the owner of that company. They do big jobs all across the country. They build stadiums. They build, whatever. Went to our sales guy and said, if this guy isn't on our job site and isn't available, your company's fired.
Wow.
And getting bullied when I was a kid and having all manner of crap said to me, done to me, all that stuff, yeah, it made me tough. Gave me the ability to go up to the toughest dudes that are around, and tell them what they need to be doing, and this is what's going to happen next, and that's the way it is, and deal with it.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and they're like, yeah. I will say this too. Like, if you being a twin flame, here's how this plays out. And a twin flame, by my definition, is just somebody who is a kind-hearted person at their true core. They just are. They can't help it. They care. And they have grown over time. They always want to develop themselves. They're not stuck. They're not refusing to grow. They want to grow. They want to learn more. They want to expand. And they just can't help it also. It's like they're being called into a higher calling. And if your counterpart would have, a lot of times the twins have similar or complementary ailments. So you can think of it this way: whoever this person is that you're meant for, that hopefully you'll be meeting this year because it's a really big year for that. She would be somebody who has had, something similar to where she has been humiliated her whole life. And she has been embarrassed, and she has been, it may not be the exact same thing, but she's had to overcome something really big in her life that she's always felt like she couldn't find somebody. There's going to be something about her story that really hits home for you, and it's going to make you guys look at each other like, wow. And the more, because you guys are tethered or attached at like there's a cord that attaches you energetically, as you develop and as you come into your power and you get stronger and you kind of get over any kind of victim mentality and you start stepping into your power, so will she. As you grow and heal, so will she. And as you both heal and start to come into this really balanced state, you guys gravitate toward each other, and then you guys are a force to be reckoned with. So this is going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome to watch and to see this happen. And I hope you guys will come on the show and talk about it. That'd be great. So always think that while you're developing and growing, is you're also developing and growing her. And let me just say this too real quick, Kev, because I never did tell you guys why bullies bully. I think that's kind of should be part of the show today. Bullies bully because if they think they're rejecting some part of themselves. And when they see a reflection in somebody else, that they think, if I exhibited that behavior, or if I looked like that, or if I did that, I would not love myself. I don't believe God would love me if I were like that. So they lash out like, who are you to be walking the earth and be fine when I wouldn't be? When if I were like you, I would feel, completely rejected by God. So it's essentially that they don't love themselves. If they feel like they can pick on you because you're in kind of a victim state. it's like when you get in your power, that's not going to be happening so much anymore because you're going to know who you are. And you're going to be tapped into your true identity past the facade or illusion, as you could say. So one way, one way, as I'm sure you've learned to make a bully back off is to there are two different things you could do. One is to stare them down, just look at them like what are you? Like they're an alien. Because then they're very insecure, so they become self-conscious. And they start wondering what's wrong with them that they're doing this to you. So that's one way to deal with them in terms of like protecting yourself. That's a nice way to do that. But another way, an even more empowering way, is to actually say in your mind, I respect your power, because those bullies do not feel powerful. It's like little man's complex. Like they have to act really big to compensate. So they have to bully people because they don't feel loved. They don't feel accepted how they are. And they're very, very insecure. So they have to act that way. And so if you even energetically in your mind, and you can experiment with this, but if you look at those people and you say, I respect your power, the judgment or whatever, you're not actually condoning their behavior. You're actually just kind of in awe of them being able to, like you said, they just feel like they can come up to me and just speak freely and say, what's wrong with your face? So it's like honor and respect that and say, wow, that's pretty amazing that you can just walk up to somebody and do that, because you probably feel like you can't do that. There's a part of you that's also getting activated or triggered, as I call it, that you're probably thinking, who are you to do that? Because I can't do that. So you're kind of doing the same thing. If you can see that element, you're kind of having the same type of thing. You're just not doing anything actively about it, but you're having the same kind of judgment they are. So instead of rejecting it or judging it, you can just say, I respect your power when they do that. And you will be shocked. Another energy thing, you'll be shocked by the impact that it makes and how it can transform a situation. And you've even seen physically how your body can even change in response to what you're believing. So when you really start stepping into your power, you're going to see a lot of changes, and you're starting to get there now, and it's incredible to watch. It's an honor to be a part of, for sure, that process.
Well, on that tip, as far as this is they kind of go hand in hand on why bullies bully and how to deal with them. I feel like that there are three reasons why bullies bully. They have no power.
I just got a flash. Okay, I just got a flash too. You might be going to high schools and you might be speaking to groups about how to handle bullies.
Really?
Yeah, you gotta think about that. That would be awesome.
I'd be good with that. I don't know how that would come to fruition, but I mean,
I'll help you make that happen. Okay,
yeah, we can make that happen.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
yeah, no problem. They got no power at home. They got no power anywhere. So they got to impose their power on somebody else. Number two, they're insecure about something. They're insecure about their academics. They're insecure about their outward appearance. Something like that. So they find somebody who is less than what they are or reflects what they are, and then they try and, show dominance over them. Mm-hmm. Or they don't have a personality. So they're trying to force their personality that hasn't developed yet. So that's why people get made fun of. They're trying to make other people laugh at somebody else's expense. They don't give a crap how that person feels. So, as far as dealing with a bully that doesn't have any power at home or anywhere, he might just need to have his butt kicked. I mean, that's just the reality of it. He either needs to have his butt kicked or he needs a friend. And sometimes, and with males, that can go hand in hand.
So he either needs a punch or a hug.
or both. I mean, there's a certain amount to the males that we can get in a knock-out, drag-out fight and then throw our arms around each other and then go have a good old time. That's a thing that people confuse with straight bullying and violence. And most of the time, if you just let them have it, then it's going to go away. Now, that's like a one-on-one situation. And with the intelligence one, if somebody thinks they don't have intelligence, they're not doing well in school, they're not doing this, they're getting nagged at home or whatever, that's a perfect opportunity if they're taking it out on you to show them, I'm not dumb. And if you want help with not being dumb, we could do that. So it might be a little bit of, it's kind of like the fighting and being friends thing. It might be a little of poking fun at them back, saying something along the lines of, this isn't me, this is you. If you want help, we can make that happen. And then with the third one, with no personality, that they don't like people that are outward. They don't like people that are introspective either. They just don't like people that have something else about them. Mm-hmm. So you just amp it up. Bring out your personality, bring out everything. They will soon realize that once they are in a dialogue with you and you brought your personality up and out to the surface and you just showed it to them, once they are in that one-on-one, they will start to realize, oh, wait a minute, I got a personality, I got something to offer, because we are having this. If we weren't having this, then I wouldn't have personality. But look at what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Travis, I have to say that part of the benefit, if you want to call it that, of you being bullied when you were a kid, is that you had to develop a quick wit. You had to think on your feet. You had to develop those skills and not be intimidated by anybody. All of which, as a man, are serving you to a great degree. Do you agree with that, Amy?
Oh, yeah. His twin's going to be thrilled to have him.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, I hear that all the time from people who know him. And I have to tell you guys a story because I've been told to tell this 3 times during this podcast, not this one specifically, but during the time, and it's something that I just have to say. When I was an assistant manager at Denny's years and years ago, there was a bartender that we had. Her name was Sam. Samantha, I believe, is her full name, but everybody called her Sam. Sam was not pretty. She was height and weight proportionate, but she was not pretty. She grew up, I am sure, being bullied by the other girls about her looks because she just wasn't. She was at the very best, you would call her plain. At the worst, you would call her less than or even ugly. But she was a bartender at that Denny's, and even though she'd been bullied as a kid, even though she'd gone through what she'd gone through, she was an incredible bartender, number one. Number two, she had a personality that would not quit. She could make friends with anybody. One time there was a 7'2" man who was a biker. He weighed about 450 pounds. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm the assistant manager, and I was working, and he didn't want to leave the bar at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's when the bar closes, and he's 7'2", and I go and tell him he has to leave the bar, and he was going to kill me. Break me in half and kill me. Well, she came up and she sweet-talked him, and got him out of the bar. She was an incredible human being. So much so that on her birthday was the highest selling day. She worked that day, and it was the highest selling day that the bar had ever seen, number one. Number two, she had three birthday cakes that people brought in for her, and it was standing room only all night long. We had to bring in a separate bartender so that she could. What I'm trying to say is, looks aren't everything, number one, but what happened to us in the past doesn't necessarily mean that doesn't dictate what's going to happen to us in the future. And in her case, she turned what was a physical problem into something that was, everybody loved Sam. Everybody wanted to be around Sam. And it was incredible to see. And that's what happens to people, I think, if they take it the right way when they get bullied as a child, and they turn it and are able to use it to their advantage. And that's what Travis is in the process of doing, and what Amy has done. Mm-hmm. And to a lesser extent, when I was bullied, so we all have those things. It's just a matter of perspective, isn't it, Amy? But did you like my Sam story?
That was awesome. And I know a lot of people like that too. A lot of people who are just incredible when you get past how anything looks. And that's how actually, and this just popped in my head, Carrie, the one that did the Christian talk a couple of episodes ago, she's just incredible. But I judged her when I first, sat down to talk to her. I had felt pretty jaded about Christians because of my own background, and she was praise Jesus every other sentence. And this is what I encourage everyone listening to do as well, is I looked for the universal truth of what was being said between us. I saw through my own jadedness or my own bias, and I just really sat with her and I really listened from my heart with a very open mind. When I did that, huge things started to happen. I started to say to her, do you mean when you say that you listen to God for 4 hours every morning, that's like meditation, right? And she was like, oh, yeah, you could call it that, and then I'd say, okay, so when you say you're filled with the Holy Spirit, would you say that it means, enlightenment, like being one with God? Yes, absolutely. And then she goes, that's what Christians just don't get. And because I had this open mind and I had this open dialogue with her, I started asking some questions and inquiring as to where she was coming from. Then I started getting very excited, and I thought, holy cow, I found the key. Like, everybody's saying the same thing. They're just using different verbiage. And she and I began this really beautiful friendship, and she helped to heal my relationship with religion, because from my own experience, it was so bad that I was never going to ever look back toward that subject again. And I think a lot of spiritual people have done that, kind of turned their back on Jesus and turned their back on Christianity and churches and all of that. And it's happened on both sides. People have become Christians that snub the spirituality and all that stuff. So I think if we can just, on all counts, just keep an open mind and see what is it that we all want here, no matter who you're in front of or talking to or what you're dealing with. What is it that we have in common? Like, find the friendship there. Like Travis, talks about, like, when somebody's bullying you, how do I become their friend? How can I friend this person? Me and that guy from Home Depot, like, we are now friends. If I saw him, I'd give him a hug. It's like he found a way to be my friend. And we found this cool moment. But it's like, that's what we all have to do. And I think this is also why, men are suppressed in this way, big time. They've been taught, to fight or to do all this. And we think women have been through a lot. And yes, they have, but men have too, in a big way. But men aren't allowed to talk about their feelings as much. They've been totally suppressed that way. And I think if we can start, like, having in our schools, if we can start teaching people how to deal with their feelings, doing Byron Katie's work, doing Matt Kahn's work, having students read books on how to accept and love themselves, how to be okay with expressing their feelings, I think this whole world could change. We won't even have this bully issue anymore. If people can just take that personal responsibility and accept and love themselves, it would be incredibly transformative.
Oh, that's so true. That is so true. By the way, we're talking with your host, Amy Satori, and this is the Satori Show, and we are going to wrap this one up because it's been going on for quite some time. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's been informative for you. If you want to find out more about Amy Satori, go to amysatori.com. That's a good place to start, and you can look on the resources page. You can actually book an appointment with her to see her so that she can talk to you one-on-one. I have to tell you, has been made plain on this podcast, and Travis will verify it, Amy had an immediate and profound impact on his life. Would you say that's true, Travis? Am I overstating my case?
Nope, you're 100% accurate.
And that can be done for you as well. All you have to do is take the first step. And you need to go to amysatori.com, and you can book an appointment with her. You can go to a resources page. You can begin to do the work. There's another podcast that we're going to do a little bit later that's going to talk about doing the work, which is important for each of us to do. And I hope that you have enjoyed this podcast. Travis, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
The only thing that I wanted to add to what Amy said last is the ultimate goal, if you're being bullied, is the only way that it's really going to stop is to become friends with your bully, or at least cordial. And that can be done a number of ways, but the fear of having a major conflict to make that happen needs to stop. Sometimes there needs to be a major conflict to bring the walls down. And that fear of that happening needs to stop. That's all.
Amy?
Yeah, well, and we don't need to take things personally, obviously. I mean, that's one big point of today, too. If somebody's attacking you, it's because they have issues. It's
Absolutely.
not you, and it's not your issue. So,
Right.
And even in the case where, this spiritual person called a guy an a-hole in the middle of Home Depot, it's like, be yourself and let it escalate if it needs to. Sometimes nature has to step in. And, when you don't shit on yourself and you don't say you have to be this perfect spiritual person, and you allow yourself to go through a natural process, there's a rebirth on the other side of that. Allow yourself to be transformed and allow a situation to change. Like Travis says, I don't necessarily condone fighting, but it's also, it's a way that can help you break through on the other side as well. Like on the last podcast, I talked about a girl who finally stood up to her father, who was really coming down on her about Christianity, and she finally told him to F off, and it's like, good for you. Sometimes that's got to happen, and we got to stop our judgment on all of it. Just let nature have its way with us and allow ourselves to transform however that needs to take place. And Travis, I really appreciate your insights very much, and I think that we need to work on a speech and a talk that you can do for teenagers. I think that'd be awesome.
I'm willing to do that, absolutely.
In fact, let's put that together and let's have a podcast featuring Travis that can be maybe a gateway to some other folks to share with other people. So that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Be beautiful.
Again, you've been listening to the Satori Show with your host, Amy Satori. Travis McDonald has been our guest. I'm your co-host, Kevin McDonald. I wish you well. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please, if you enjoy what you heard today, tell your friends. Share this podcast. Go look at the other podcasts on thesatorishow.podbean.com and share those. There is some nuggets in there that can be life-changing and can transform what you're thinking today to what you can be thinking tomorrow. So with that, thank you very much for listening. Do something nice for yourself. Do something nice for somebody else. Remember, your heart is free. Have the courage to follow it. Thank you, and goodbye for us. We'll see you next time on The Satori Show.